All right. Some good energy, some good vibes up in here. How you doing, everyone? My name is Rob Zahler. I am the Business Relations Manager at Old Tampa Bay Title. We are a real estate attorney-owned and operated title company. So as you are aware, Florida is non-attorney state. However, we have in-house attorneys and resources here to assist you with these wholesale and flipping and everything else, all these sometimes shenanigan type of deals that you guys are through. So I have a special guest, actually two special guests tonight, because we usually have not one, not two, but three in-house real estate attorneys. But tonight with me, I have two in-house real estate attorneys right over here. Andrew Hope, Randy Henderson, say hi. All right. So with us, and yeah, so I also want to mention tonight as well is that afterwards, we have an open bar for y'all. Does that get you excited or what? 1 hour, after 10, after the meeting. We're going to sponsor an open bar for you, so it's right out here, right after the meeting. Come on out. And then also, hey, on your next deal for closing, okay? Hey, guys, be a smarty. All right, let's close after you close. Let's party. Sound good? All right? Everybody? All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Here, who wants one? Up close and personal. Woo! Make sure you share with your friends. Share with your friends. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Anybody wants to she wasn't smart. How about this one? I don't even fucking need this thing. Mic check. All right, cool. All right, guys. So like I said, I've got Lee Carney in the house tonight, guys. Lee owns spin companies. How many flips do you guys do a year right now, Lee? Right now, a couple hundred. A couple hundred a year? Yes. Goals, guys. Goals. We're about a dozen a year, so we got to step up our game, man. But guys, there's no better person to have brought back to you guys for the live and in-person one than Lee Carney. I've looked at Lee as a mentor. Lee's bought several deals for me in the past as a wholesaler. I don't wholesale much anymore these days. I'm pretty much more of a buyer than I was a wholesaler. Made quite the, a little bit of a progression from a wholesaler, fix and flipper, to now pretty much a fix and flipper, to simply a fix and flipper and a buy and hold investor and a partner in Deployed Capital Group as well. So, you guys are in the right room tonight and going in the future. There is no better REIA in the area than TBREIA. And the reason is because we do more deals, we have more members, and we have more fun. If you guys are not having fun in this business, you are doing something seriously wrong. And that's one of the main cultures that we have here at TBREIA, that we have at Outfast Realty and Investments. And anything I have my hands on, we have fun while we do it, and we try to make as much money as we possibly can. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Lee up here, and he's going to rock the house tonight. So I'll give him a big round of applause. Oh, no COVID. I already had COVID. So, make sure the clicker's working. It was a minute ago, like everything else. So, I'm going to go back. Let's go back one. March 21st, about 8 a.m. I woke up in a hotel connected to Cleveland Airport in a pool of sweat. It's like, what's going on? So I knew something wasn't right. Obviously, March 21st, something's going on. So I slid onto a plane, got straight to Tampa. I'd already missed my flight, by the way. It was supposed to leave at 8:30 when I woke up. Got straight to Tampa, went straight to the ER. 2 p.m., March 21st. Got checked in, the ER. They said, everything's fine. Swabbed me a couple times. Lost those results, by the way. Sent me home, said, your chest x-ray is clear. I said, no problem. March 25th, 10 p.m. I was dropped off the ER, no recollection. Woke up March 26th, approximately 7 p.m. with 104.5 fever. Didn't know where it was.
realized I had pneumonia March 27th, sorry. March 27th, I was diagnosed with COVID. Now fighting for my life. In 6 days, I went from being healthy to fighting for my life. You want to know what's important? Try being on your deathbeds, fighting for your life, isolated in a hospital where even the doctors and nurses are scared of you because they don't even know what COVID is. That's exactly where I was. So, started to get a lot of texts, people reaching out on what's going on. In fact, coincidentally, March 27th, in one of my businesses, 60% of my staff was let go. Why? I already signed over power of attorney to my partners. I said, I don't know what to do. I think I'm going to die. So you guys take over. That was the email. 60% of our staff let go while I was in hospital, no control. Started getting some texts about hydroxychloroquine. And I understand, I'm not trying to get political with you guys, but just, this is my testimony, my story. So, started to ask the doctors, they didn't know, it's not FDA approved. Like, the drugs you're giving not working. I'm literally going downhill by the hour. Just to give you guys an idea, imagine not being able to take one breath. Real, not one. My oxygen saturation level was in the 80s with oxygen. At this point, they're telling me I should get on a ventilator. I refused a ventilator. I had to sign a document refusing that. March 28th, they're still not giving me hydroxychloroquine. I said, okay. So now at this point, I'm trying to figure out, what's the last video I sent my son? I mean, you want to talk about a coming to Jesus moment? You want to talk about, you know, understanding your whole life's purpose, everything you've done in life, what it all means? That was it. So I was trying to figure out, because I couldn't breathe very well. In about 30 seconds, what can I tell my 4-year-old son that actually matters? 30 seconds, because that's about how long I could breathe before I'd start coughing to the point that I passed out and would wake up minutes or hours later. It was bad. Like I said, the doctors were so afraid to even come into my ward, my room, they didn't come in. I had 9 nurses throwing shit through the window because they didn't want to come in. They actually ran out of PPE. They ran out of saline solution. They didn't have the drug that actually works. Instead, they gave me Levaquin, but they didn't have the drug that actually worked a little bit better for pneumonia at the time. It was tough. It was a tough time. So went to bed. Well, I didn't go to bed. I should say that. I got nighttime because I hadn't slept or ate several days at this point. So March 29th rolls around. I'm feeling a little bit better, just a little bit. Like, I'm still alive. Like, I didn't have to send that video. And at this point, keep in mind, I've been 104.5 fever for now 3 days straight. If you guys have experienced fever, 104.5 is like, I mean, it's bad. Your brain doesn't work. You don't quite know where you're at. On top of that, try oxygen level in the 80s with oxygen. It's not good. So, starting to feel a little bit better on the 29th. Then 29th evening, I'm like, by the way, at this point, I cut off all communication with all my friends. Why do you think I've done that? I was inside. It's like, this is not the way I planned on going out. 41 years old, son, dying alone. But that's exactly the way I felt. But 29th in the evening, I started to feel a little better. Amazingly, by the 30th in the afternoon, I was off oxygen. They kicked me out of, I didn't want to leave, by the way. I felt terrible. And for the next 37 days, actually, before I became COVID negative. Take the next slide. Yeah, almost 37 days. So this is 14 days. I think it's an arbitrary number. 37 days. I got retested multiple times. I was COVID positive. Next slide. So what does all this mean? It's not about masks. No masks. That's not what it's about. Everybody's getting involved in discussions that really don't matter. It's not about Republican versus Democrat. It really isn't. It doesn't really matter who you think is going to be president. COVID has affected the entire world's economy. I want to stop there. You guys get that, right? It's not about the US. The entire world came to a screeching halt in March. That's what happened. You don't have to agree with me or disagree. That's a fact. It's a fact. COVID has affected real estate in a big way. So really the point of my discussion tonight is not about politicizing this. It's about how does this affect us as real estate investors? And the reality is it's affected us in a big way. You can ignore the reality or you can pivot. So again, let's go back to March of this year. I had a cannabis business, which Alex is coming out to see that tomorrow. 2 operations out there, skyrocketed since March. We've got 2 production facilities. Tens of thousands of units per month, multi-million-dollar business out there, skyrocketed since March. I have a real estate business where no one was buying or selling from March to June. Real estate education business, real advisors. You know what happened in March? Anybody want to guess what happened to the real estate education business? Have a guess. Anybody? In March. In March. Every single person registered for an event canceled. No hotels. There is no events. Done. We had over $300,000 in refunds. By the way, I'm in a hospital bed fighting for my life, seeing the refunds come through. Already signed over a POA on the company where 60% of my staff was fired while I was trying to fight for my life. I had to try to pick up the pieces. So for those of you who watched me in April, that was someone basically propping me up for 30 minutes. Then I was collapsed in bed. Slept 16 to 18 hours a day for most of April. So what's the point of all this? A little bit about me before I get into that. Founder of Spin Companies, real estate investor since 2004. Over 7,500 transactions, over $500 million in real estate. One of the largest private buyers in the country. It's working out good. All right. So I want to talk about my story. The reason this is important because this is eerily similar to what happened back then. I made and lost $2 million by 2008. I only started really in 2005. 2004, dabbled in a couple of properties, but I started really investing in 2005. My biggest mistake, I had no mentor. I just decided I was buying, rehabbing, flipping, making money. I ended up rehabbing all of my profits into the downward market. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Being $2 million up. It's almost like going to the casino. Like you bet $20, you're down $20 now. Imagine being $2 million up and then leaving the house at night being $2 million down. That's exactly what I experienced. In fact, at the time, the end of 2007, got off a 6-week honeymoon. Had to tell my wife at the time, we're broke. We're done. We're not paying anything. Like we're done. Because I watched our equity evaporate. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is eerily similar to what we're experiencing today. So I want to tell you guys, you may be doing really well right now. And I don't take that away from anybody in this room. But I went through this and it was a nightmare. I'm not a depressive person. After this happened, I didn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. I didn't know how do you even deal with this? It's like, I got lots of money, I have no money, like overnight. And that was a really, really tough reality. So I want to give you some advice from my $100 million plus mentors, because I decided after I got my ass kicked, it's like, I want to listen to people who are a lot smarter than me. Here's a couple pieces of advice. It's not important to call the bottom of the market, but it's important to call the top. I want to talk about that for a second. We'll get more into that in this presentation. But nobody wants real estate. Nobody wants real estate for years. So it doesn't matter. Let's go back. If you bought in 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, it didn't really matter. You're buying down here. In fact, those of you following me on Instagram, I pointed out a property. What I didn't put on Instagram, I bid on that property. The high bid that beat me out was $36,000. Anybody want to guess what that property is under contract for today?
$300,000.
How much?
$300,000.
That's about right. Yeah, I think 280, 290. I mean, it's just silly. It's just silly. So for those of you,
Hey, it's not fair. He bought it.
he did. Good stuff.
I'm insider scoop.
This is why I like my friends being here, because they clown me and I'm okay with it. But in all seriousness, I mean, is something really worth 8 or 9x from 9 years ago? It's not. So anyone who's saying it doesn't matter when you buy and when you sell, there's always a time, there's always a time to buy, there's always a time to sell. It's so important to call the top. Why? Because when nobody wants real estate, it takes a really quick slide downwards. But when nobody wants it, the good news is you've got buying opportunities for years. So don't be caught at the top, but make sure you buy at the bottom. Again, this is from people who are worth $100 million more in net worth, which is the only people I listen to, by the way. If you go to the gym, do you want to listen to somebody who's overweight and out of shape? No, you listen to somebody who's where you want to go. That's the same way in real estate. There's always money in real estate. You need to be on the right side of the trade. I remember over and over again, 2008, 2009, 2010, I was buying my own houses back that I sold at 150, 200, 250,000 for 20, 30, 40, 50,000. Think about it. The person getting foreclosed on that bought it, and me buying it, forget me, any investor, random investor buying it. Who's on the right side of the trade, the buyer or the seller? Exactly. My mentor in 2008, right when the stock market crashed, the Dow hit about 6,000. For those of you who are heavy in the stock market, you're in for like a sorry surprise. But anyway, moving on. My mentor texted me that day. I remember he said bottom. I looked at the market and sure enough, the Dow hit 6 and change. You know what he made that week? Anyone want to guess what he made that week? How much? 20 million. He bought 2 packages of $100 million of first mortgages for 10 million, flipped them for 20. Who is on the right side of the trade? Who is on the wrong side of the trade? It's fairly obvious, right? The exact same trade. A bank taking a bath, we probably sold it 20 times over, and there's some like children's school fund in Switzerland who actually own these packages of worthless mortgages. They sold them for 10 cents on the dollar. He flipped it for 20. I've never learned that lesson more than I did that week. You can have the exact same trade and have one winner and one loser. That's unfortunately the way real estate is. Everyone talks about real estate being a win-win. Real estate is only a win-win in what kind of market? Anybody? So, what direction is the market going when everybody wins? Oh, in an upward market, everybody's a winner. Everybody's an investor. Everybody's a great investor. Everybody's a great wholesaler. Everybody's great because the market's going up. You can't lose. Like you're not thinking, oh, I flipped this property in 50 grand. Yeah, no shit. The property went up. I mean, you're not that great. You just bought it and the property went up and they're selling for more. Like what you do. So (2008), right at the beginning, I spent my 2 weeks in bed. I finally went to see my mentor, Bumper. Bumper wasn't the richest guy I knew, but he had the most life experience. Got on the wrong side of the law with the wrong kind of people, was a recovering alcoholic, who hadn't, by the way, at the time of his death, drank in over 30 years. And just really like a father figure to me. So I remember going to breakfast, I was nervous as hell. I lost everything, it was embarrassing. You know, I just newly got married. I was like big shot down to 0. And I said, Bump, because his nickname was Bumper. I called him Bump. I said, Bump, what do I do? He said, son, I'm waiting for this like epic advice, like just life-changing advice. He said, son, sell your way out of it. I said, is that it? Like I'm waiting for something more. He goes, yeah. So we kind of get into the conversation further. He goes, you're obviously got massive losses on the other side. You got to put your head down and start doing things to create revenue. That's what I say to you guys. You've got your ass kicked at the beginning of this year. Focus on revenue. That's the only thing that's going to help you get out of it. That's exactly what Bumper told me. Here's one of the biggest piece of advice I can give you guys from my mentors. When you see an opportunity, you know, a lot of people talk about 10x. 10x is great. I like the whole concept of taking something, blowing it up. But my mentor, I remember back, it was around 2011, 2010. I said, it's like, how are you so wildly successful? He goes, when I see an opportunity, I just annihilate it. I exhaust that opportunity. So he said, whether it's 100x, 1,000x, 10,000x, I go all in. That's what I'd say to you guys. If you got something that works in your business, why are you limiting that? Go all in. That's exactly what my mentor told me. He's worth several hundred million. And this is not quite shown up. I'm not sure, Greg, what's going on here, but analyze the market, find the opportunity, capitalize it. It's a little bit low. That's another thing my mentor told me. You can't fight the tide. Can you imagine the real estate market is like a tidal wave? So the only thing you can do with a tidal wave is go with it. If you try to fight the market, do something different, or be unique, you're going to get ate up by the market. The market's way bigger than any single person in this room. So one of the other best pieces of advice I can give you, look at the market, find the opportunity, and then capitalize on it. Don't try to fight the market, because everyone thinks they're the smartest person in the room. You're not. The market's a lot smarter than me, you guys, anybody in the room. Appreciate that. No, I appreciate it. It's all good. I'm getting super bougie, so sorry about that. I'm gonna deal with it. We're gonna do it the TBREIA way.
1 week of 104.5.
What was that?
I guess we're going back over here too.
And how the quick. Sorry.
You don't do it 7 months of that.
I love you, man. You know that. There's a lot of love here, but this is like this not. So I want to talk about the market. So I'm trying to make my case here, because a lot of people should talk on social media about what they think is going to happen, presuppose. I want to deal with numbers. Here's the reality. Serious delinquencies in foreclosure are on the way down. And do I have a laser clicker? This is right when the shit hit the fan. Delinquencies went all the way down. Now here's what happened at the beginning of the year. As soon as people stop paying mortgages, how many people here realize there's a gigantic proportion of borrowers that haven't paid a dime in their mortgage this market? That's the storm that nobody's talked about, by the way. Stimulus money, people on the hamster wheel, get them to re-vote for Trump. I get it, by the way. Without getting political, I get it. Everybody's on the hamster wheel right now. Just give me money, we're happy. Here's the reality, though. Delinquencies have gone way up. Next slide. This is really interesting to me. Loan loss reserves as a percentage of loans. Why is this important? Anybody want to talk about what's happening right here? Why is this important? Why are the loan loss reserves important? Anybody? The banks are getting ready. They know what's coming. The banks know exactly what's coming. This right here is the banks ramping up, getting ready for exactly what's coming. Next slide. This to me is interesting. Everybody can get a loan. Everybody. Everybody. 2010, 2020. Why? Prices are on the way up. Exactly what I was saying before. Everybody's a winner. You're a winner, you're a winner, you're a winner, you're a winner. COVID comes along. Look at this. 60% banks tightened up overnight because they recognize this. The reason I say this, because the numbers and the statistics show that the narrative, prices going up forever, rents going up forever, it's just not happening. Let's go back one. This to me is really, really key. I'll ask a question. There's one word that drives an economy. Anybody want to guess what the one word is? What's that?
Spending.
It's a little bit different than what's on the slide. What was that, Alex?
Spending.
Spending. That's exactly right. As long as people are spending on the hamster wheel, the economy does well. People spend because they're what? Why do people spend? Yes, there you go. See, I got you. I got you. When people stop spending, what are they not? They're not confident. Exactly. That's what the entire economy is hinged on. This is why this is so important. Look at this. Like literally a nosedive. What happened around this time? Anybody want to talk about real estate? What's going on with real estate? Exactly. Real estate was in the toilet. So investor confidence is a really key indicator of what's going to happen. Next slide. This to me is just the part to me that's just laughable. What does Zillow, who by the way is a buyer in today's market, and also makes money off leads that they sell to realtors. So what does Zillow say? This green is where they think the forecast is going. What's going on with the market?
It's getting better.
They're lying. Blue skies and rainbows, right? But the whole point is, if we go back to the previous slides, none of this really makes sense. So I'm talking to you guys as investors, not as consumers, not as buyers. I'm talking to you guys as people in the trenches with me. Next slide. This to me is also very, very telling. Look at the housing affordability index. Literally, COVID hit, supply went down, prices went up. See this? Affordability literally is the inverse of prices. Stuff is completely unaffordable right now. So if you take the fact that delinquencies are going up, you take the fact the prices are going up, affordability is going up, what do you guys think is really going to happen? I want you guys to have your eyes open, because there's a lot of people saying it's always the right time to buy rentals, buy and hold, generational wealth. Then you have me, who has seen this cycle before. I'm showing you these statistics. I bought my own house back for 20 cents on the dollar. So in fact, I'll give you a real life example. Bought a property in 2007. It appraised in South Tampa condo for 140,000. I bought it for 100. Who's with me so far? You guys good? 40,000 equity? I'm good. I took a loan out with Bank of America for 70,000, 50 cents a dollar. Who's with me? All right, short sold in 2009 for 22,000. Who's with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen this firsthand. The numbers, the book tells you to do one thing, the reality shows you something completely different. Let's move on. So the basic equation since COVID, more revenue, less expenses. The reason I say this is a time to tighten up your business. It's not a time for excess. Let's get really, really efficient. So I'm going to talk about planning here. Revenue, liquidity. This is the key. There's only one way you can take advantage of a buying opportunity. It's liquidity, money, not being tapped out, not being over leveraged. And you can liquidate assets right now. So what I would say to you, it's a great time to sell. We talked about being on the right side of the trade. If you got a dog or a rental, sell it. Because you get top dollar for a piece of shit. I mean, that's the reality. Now, it's important to have money. A lot of people focus on the deals. The reality is, if you want to be an investor, whether you're a wholesaler or a rehabber, you're only a day trader. You're not really investing in real estate. That's what you're doing. You're day trading real estate, which is cool. I do a ton of it. So I'm not knocking that. I don't knock wholesalers. I don't knock. I'm both. What I'm trying to tell you guys is a big difference between generating income and creating real wealth. Real wealth is created at the bottom of the market, riding up and selling at the top. That's where wealth is created. We're just trading time for money, whether you're a wholesaler or rehabber. That's why money and deals are important. It's important to have multiple sources of lending. If you really want to create wealth in real estate, focus on lending. If you're not focused on that, make the focus. Show your portfolio, show your deals, create a track record so you can track lending. It's important. It's not time for fat right now. Eliminate all unnecessary expenses. I mean, even me, I rented a half my office. Why? I want everything to be an asset in my world. I don't want to have expenses. Labor, we looked at every single person. I already talked about the info business. 60% of people let go while I was in hospital. In fact, we reduced our staff about 25% the week after I got out of the hospital. Every person in your organization, this is key, must have value, take on multiple things. We let go of a processor, a construction admin, executive assistant was replaced. I have my new amazing executive assistant back here, Jessica. So, but my point to that is, people that don't make money have to go. This is not a time to be flashy. This is a time to tighten your belt and make sure that every single thing you do makes money, including your overhead. Unnecessary subscriptions, all the things you don't need. Email, I could go on and go on. We went line item by line item. I say this because everybody wants to brag on social media about revenue, but you can have all that money piss out the door if you're wasting on expenses you don't need. This is the key to revenue, by the way. Acquisitions. How many people here fully realize 100% without a doubt you make all of your money on the line? Your investors should, everybody should be raising their hand. If you don't, that's okay. I can tell you, if you haven't raised your hand, the money is made buying real estate. That's where you make your money. The rest of it's a process. Big secret. Everything else besides buying properties at the right price is a process. This is where the secret sauce kicks in. It's understanding how to buy properties. And the reality is, if you're dealing with a seller, you're not in the property game. You're in the sales and marketing game. You're learning how to talk to sellers. That's actually the business you're in. The house happens to be a widget that you're moving from A to B, but you're not in the property game. That's just a widget. You're actually a sales and marketing company that happens to use properties. Systems and processes, organize, clean your bookkeeping. Self-education, this is really something we focused on during when stuff was in complete lockdown. And now that I look back at this, March till June was just a shit show. We didn't start selling real estate until July. That's a fact as I look back. So we used this time to learn our business, make sure we could really focus on all the efficiencies, cutting out the fat, and actually educating ourselves on where we need to go. Next. All right, next. So actually, that slide. So before COVID, there was three things I was focused on. It was today's revenue, tomorrow's revenue, which was planning, major problem solving. Here's exactly what I'm focused on today. I'm micromanaging funding. Why? Because lenders are skittish. Back in April, May, try to get a loan, I'd have to like sell my firstborn to get a loan in April and May. Especially because like I'm just getting out of the hospital. Like, where are you? Like I'm trying to get a loan. Like, are you gonna stay alive like till you pay off this loan? Like, I mean, this is the kind of conversations I was having. So I can tell you firsthand, my lenders were almost like sending a doctors to my house before they could lend me money. So I definitely saw this. Deal flow. It's important to focus because if you're looking at the long game instead of the short game, it's not just about how much money you made. How many deals did you get under contract? If you really believe you make money on the buy, you're looking at the deal flow. How many incoming deals, not just what did I make this month. What did I make this month is very short-sighted because it calculates last month's and the previous month's efforts. It's not actually a true representation of what's going on this month. Major problem solving. A lot of owners ignore this. They just pass it off to their assistant. Any major problem in your business, you should be involved in. It's not just, you don't push that stuff off. Small problems, yes, but major problems, you should be all in on that. So let's talk about what to implement. Wholesale. I can't express this enough. If you're not wholesaling, you're a real estate investor, you're not engaged in the right strategy. That is a key strategy that works today. Why does wholesaling, why is it the best and most timeless strategy? Anybody?
Least liability time.
Least liability, that's good. Anyone else?
Time frame.
Time frame. Revenue cycle is short. Yep, it's weeks instead of months. Anyone else?
Keeps you finding deals and stuff.
Well, you should always be focused on acquisitions. So I think that's for anyone else?
Keeps you away from non-performing contractors.
Any market? Yes. Anyone else?
Keeps you away from the non-performing contractors.
I agree. Let's talk about that for a second. When you go from wholesaling to rehabbing, you've taken on several layers of risk. Lender risk, contractor risk, market risk, budget risk. You could have a great contractor, but you fucked up your budget. You thought it was 50, it was 80. The contractor didn't do anything wrong. You just completely blew your budget out of the water because you didn't understand real estate. So a lot of people don't realize when you transition from wholesaling to rehabbing, it's a different business. You've taken on several layers of risk that didn't exist with wholesaling. Wholesaling is buying below today's price, selling at today's price. That's it. It's that simple. When you get into rehabbing, you've actually entered a completely different business. And so wholesaling right now, I look at three things in deals. The profitability, the brain damage, which means how much like mental effort. Look at risk. And so wholesaling has profit and no brain damage and no risk. When you take on rehabbing, you've got profit because we all pro forma these amazing numbers and how our rehab's going to turn out. Thank goodness, by the way, the market's going up. So we look like rock stars because it went up 20 grand, covers all your mistakes.
Yep.
But you've got profit, more brain damage, and a huge amount of risk. Right now, no. This is the part where it may sound counterintuitive. This whole COVID nonsense, and I look at you as a lender in the room, Just kick the can down the road. Look, rates are low. Life is good probably for another year. So don't mistake anything I've said. We probably kicked the can for an entire year down the road because there's no supply. Banks have not foreclosed since March. Banks have not kicked people out since March. Tenants haven't paid since March. Landlords haven't been able to kick them out since March. I mean, I could go on and go on and stuff. I could point you properties I own nationwide where I have not the best people I've ever met in life staying in these properties. I haven't paid a dime since March. I mean, this is a big problem. And so the supply, on top of that, a couple of people are scared to move. So retail supply is low. Institutional supply is low. Rates are low. I mean, it's a party. It's probably, we probably have a free lunch here for at least somewhat Q1, Q2, 2021. I mean, it's, but also development. Who here wants to start a 2-year development project today? How many people want to start a 2-year development? You're paying market price, by the way. Anybody? You? Okay, I like your style. Yeah, I know you're good. If you're paying market price for raw land, you want to get to a 2-year development project? I want to buy the foreclosure option for 20 cents or 30 cents on the dollar. Next slide. Wholesaling. Works any market cycle. You can do wholesaling, co-wholesaling, micro-wholesaling. You get a true sense of value. This is what I love. It's like the stock market. You know what's cool about wholesaling? You buy something, you put it out, the market tells you, how long does the market tell you what's worth, right?
10 minutes later.
About 10 minutes later, yeah. I mean, literally the same day, you know if you got a good deal. I love wholesaling. It gives you the truest sense of exactly what the market's doing today. Because you're selling to people who are actually parting with their cash. I love wholesaling. You build a pipeline of auction contracts. This is another strategy. My mentors have always told me, at the bottom you buy, top you control. You can control real estate with auction contracts. You know you can buy a property to rehab it with an auction contract. How cool is that? You buy it for no money, you just put the rehab into it, then you execute your options when you're ready to sell. Does that sound good to people? That's the difference between owning and controlling real estate. Huge difference. Huge difference. And if you always buy right, you buy options. You have options. What do I mean by that? If you buy below wholesale, what are your options, Allison?
Buy below.
If you buy below wholesale, what are your options?
Rehab.
Rehab is one. What can you do with it if you buy below wholesale? You can wholesale it.
Or sell on finance.
Sell it finance. You can wholesale it. You can sell it by the way, King of Trailers back here, Alex Sawell, good friend of mine. He's got an amazing owner finance model. So look him up. King of Trailers, you can find it. Anyways, you can wholesale it, you can rehab it, you can owner finance it, you can do whatever the hell you want with it because you bought it below wholesale. So don't ignore today's value. This is why it's always important to buy right. You've got every option. Every single option is available to you. Thanks. Rehabbing. Right now with today's market, I've learned this lesson the hard way. If you're rehabbing, don't rehab in war zones with this market risk because you may get a nasty surprise there when it comes to value. Don't have fixed houses. If you're going to rehab it, make sure you fix the functional stuff. Why? Because you can sell cash, conventional, or you can sell it FHA. So the stuff behind the walls is a non-negotiable. Now for me, no major construction. We're not doing that. Why? Major municipalities have slowed down the permitting process. You go down to South Florida, try to get a permit, good luck. Yeah, ask me how I know. Materials have gone up. How many people here have been on the front lines of rehabbing and seen material prices go up? Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is wood, shingles, appliances. Just take those. We actually rehab houses nationwide. Our average appliance package went from $1,800 because we just at this point we're at the closing table. We need to get appliances in the house. We're paying $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 for the same appliances we paid $1,800 for in January, February. That's massive. Big difference. Now, when it comes to buying holding capital, I cannot explain this to you enough. You always want to be raising money and doing deals. You want to be both. Not just about deals, not just about money, it's about both. Don't ever buy stuff that doesn't cash flow. I know it sounds ridiculous. Don't buy stuff that doesn't cash flow. If it doesn't cash flow, kill the deal. Try to kill your deals. Especially if you're buying and holding, try to kill it. If it survives, maybe consider buying it. Maybe after today's off, you buy nothing. But try to kill the deal. Pursue seller financing deals and options. Why? Why would you want to pursue seller financing in the risky market? Who are you passing the risk to in this case? What? The seller, exactly. When you're wholesaling, who are you passing the risk to? The buyer. You guys see, connecting the dots here? Owner financing passes the risk to the seller. Wholesaling passes the risk to the buyer. How many people here care if you're the buyer you wholesaled your house and made 50 grand loses money?
If I talk to you, I care.
Okay, MJ, I appreciate the vote. He just lobbed me a softball there, and I appreciate that. MJ, good friend of mine too, by the way, awesome guy. But yes, the reality is, you wholesale, you're like, I got mine, and you don't care if you lost money. That's the whole point. By wholesaling, you pass the risk to the buyer. By owner financing, you pass the risk to the seller, especially if you get no money down. So obviously check with your attorney if you're not violating any laws by defaulting. Anyway, moving on. This is a big key difference between today and February of this year. My entire business is virtual. You should, with today's technology, be able to conduct your entire business virtually, which means you can buy on the East Coast of Florida, South Florida, Georgia, or California. It's the same deal if you got your business set up correctly. So I just encourage you guys, with today's technology, you can operate virtually. This is very, very important. Make sure that you're conservative with the comps, which means this was the advice I gave 6 months ago, but now I would say to you, look at the comps. It's important to look at active, pending, and sold. Why? Why is it important to look at all three?
See the trend.
Who said that? You're exactly right. Because if you look at actives, and the actives are lower than the pendings, which is lower than the solds, you've actually got an upward market. You go down to South Florida and Miami, I can show you case after case with apartment complex where the actives are, we'll say 300, the pendings are 280, the solds are like 250. I mean, the stuff's on the way down. I mean, it's just, this is why it's so important. When you're running comps, active, pending, sold, last 90 days. If you take nothing else away from tonight, if you want to value properties, active, pending, and sold, last. Understand the trend. Here's what's really unique about today's market. What's happening in the average market with a single family home? So you got a good neighborhood, you put a house in the market. What's your typical scenario today?
Multiple offers.
Why? Why?
Shortage.
What? Continue to talk. What's your competition? Nobody.
No, yeah.
The reason you get multiple offers today, this is where we've got a unique window. It's almost like just a software that's thrown to us as investors. Today, the average house we list has no competition or very little. So that's why we're able to get top dollar. In fact, I just mentored one of my advisors council, which is my mentor program. He asked a former NFL player, I won't mention his name, what team he's on, so you don't Google how much. Anyway, he asked me, what should I list this at? The comps are 215. The average list price of the last recent sold were about 220, 224. What should you list that house at?
230.
I told him 230. I was a little bit conservative, but you're in the right direction, by the way, Dave. You're in exactly the right direction. He was going to list it at 219.9. I'm like, you're crazy. You have zero competition. In fact, you can check back in. You just hit me up on Instagram next week. But I told him to list it at 229. I told him he'd probably get multiple offers in the 230s on that exact same, because there's zero competition. It's in Riverview. That's why it's so important to look at your competition. Look at active, pending, and sold. I can't stress that enough. Solds do not tell you the right picture in an upward market, flat market, or the down market. Now, don't force deals to work, because especially if it's a deal with a long revenue cycle, the big rehab, high rehab costs, low comp, high profit. If you do all three things, you're guaranteed to make money. I say guaranteed, loosely. But if you put down the comps, you put up the rehab, and you put up the profit, You built in a margin of error. So if the deal still survives and you buy it, you're probably going to either make a little money or a lot of money. That's exactly what we're doing in today's market. Wholesaling, the risk of ownership, the market risk need to be strongly considered. This is why wholesaling to me is just huge. And there's a big difference, by the way, which is age-old discussion between wholesaling, which is assigning a contract and taking it down. To me, there's very little risk. Right now, today, because of low supply, which is why you got to raise money. So let's take the example, Dave, I'll use the example. You and I go into the seller. You've got a 30-day contract at 100 grand, and I commit 90,000, I'll close tomorrow. Who do you think's getting the deal? If it's a desperate seller. Exactly. Even if my cost of capital is 3 grand, I'm getting the deal. I'm still making $7,000 more. I mean, this is where it's important to understand. A lot of wholesalers in this room disregard the power of raising money. We're raising money every day. I'm constantly talking to lenders, constantly getting new deals. The power of money is the exact example I just gave you right there. Because you had a great offer at 100,000, but you being able to come in, how would you like to come in on every offer that close tomorrow? Close in 2 days. Cool, right? And that's why it's important to raise money. It's always important to raise money, not just be doing deals. Deals are cool, but money gives another tool in your tool belt to be able to act on opportunities and be able to negotiate an amazingly better price just by having money. I think it's important to expand your buy box. A lot of us want to buy just in Hillsborough County, just in Pinellas County, just in Pasco County, wherever it is, Polk County. But if you actually target sellers with equity and expand your buy box, you can get much better deals statewide. So really think about this. This is a big difference. Right now you're in a bubble saying, well, I live in Pinellas, I buy in Pinellas, or I rehab in Pinellas, that's where my crews are. I'll let you in a secret. If you actually target equity instead of just location, you get much better deals. You can focus on mispriced assets. It'll give you a huge competitive advantage. Because what's happening is by focusing on a market with high competition, the price goes up. By focusing on deals with equity, you get a much better deal. That's exactly what we do, not only in the state of Florida, nationwide. Creative deals. Option contracts, we spoke about those, seller financing subject to. Now, you need to check on the state regulations. A lot of stuff has changed over the last 10 years. But if you're not completely sure about a deal, if you want to talk about cash on cash return, if you buy a house for 300,000, let the seller finance it, put in the 30 grand rehab, and then sell it, make 30 grand, your cash and cash return is what? You put out 30, you make 30. What is it?
Over 100%.
Okay, if you bought it for 300, we'll say you pay cash. And you put in 30 grand for rehab, you made 30. What's your cash and cash return?
9.8%.
Yeah, see the difference? I mean, it's just like, now you can talk about leverage returns. I'm using a very simple example. You can, a lot of people don't realize, you can own or finance a rehab. You just don't, you have to think about that tool in your toolbox. That's a huge way to eliminate risk. So if you've got a deal, a lot of people don't want to put out 300 grand to make 30. But would you put out 30 to make 30?
Yep.
Most people in this room will nod their head and say yes. So there's lots of tools in our toolbox. We're just not using them because we're not thinking about that stuff. Marketing. A big way to ramp up marketing with low dollars out, JV deals. Focus on what you're good at. You've got a big buyers list, tell people, bring me deals. I'll sell them with JV. That's a great way to do it. Now, guaranteed predictable deals. If you've got stuff that you consistently make money on, instead of doing mass marketing, focus on doing more marketing on the deals where you make money. So if you're really good at buying, I'll use the king of trailers as an example. What are you really good at buying?
Shitholes.
What kind of shitholes?
Trailers.
What kind of trailers?
I don't know, like,
Okay. In what kind of areas?
horrible ones.
Okay.
Going nowhere.
So Alex has identified his buy box. So are you gonna try to compete against me against a 3-2 block in the state of Tampa? Why?
Because my cash on cash return is better.
You identified your buy box.
Yep.
So he's gone all in on his buy box. So if you've got a buy box that works in your market, why would you try to compete with an expert in another space? You go all in your buy box. And What Alex is doing, what smart investors are doing, like myself, is we're going all in on doing more of what we're already good at. Because I'm competing against experts like you. Why would I try to compete against you? I go all in on what I'm already good at. So think about this concept. You can go big, spend a bunch of money in marketing, or you can go deeper in what you already do really, really well. Follow-up. Seller motivation changes daily. In fact, I just lost out on a deal. The deal I just lost out, which is a property I was actually going to move into, it's on the water over near the airport. The buyer that got the deal went to Virginia for 1 day to meet the seller, stayed 4 days, met with her for lunch every single day until she signed the contract. No, I hate losing. So I'm like, Chuck, you're gonna have a fucking plane for every deal that we're closing. Chuck's our closer. Like, that's what we're doing. So we just upped the bar. In fact, today we're about to miss a deal. I drove one of my people out to East Coast. So like, you got in the car, you're going to the East Coast right now. The deal didn't work out. It wasn't because of lack of effort. He got in the car with 2 copies of the contract. I'm like, we're not doing this shit anymore. We're not losing deals. So seller motivation changes daily. Well, the average deal is closed. I mean, depending on who you read, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 follow-ups. If you follow up one time, you're trying to just go after numbers game. It's ineffective. You're better off working with a target list of stuff that you're good at buying, good at selling, and following up with 10 times rather than going after 10 times the amount of leads and following up with 1 time. Does that make sense, everybody? Big difference about being effective versus being busy. Now, you got to figure out when it comes to disposition, who's buying and who's selling. Ultimately, if you're a wholesaler, the only thing you need to know who's buying, what price they're buying, where they're buying, what kind of stuff they're buying. Then you go and find the asset. That's it. That's your only job as a wholesaler. If you're a wholesaler, you don't view the business like that, you're wrong. If you're just trying to tie up random stuff and then go sell it, you're wrong. Figure out what the cash buyers are buying, where they're buying, what price point, then just go buy that stuff. Take the guesswork out. So your current clients, it's a very, very important when it comes to disposition. Talk to your buyers. Buyer preferences have changed. Post-COVID, people are buying different stuff right now. You know, you've got people pulling out of the market, people come into the market. As one of my mentors said, at the top of the market, he says the masses of assets come in. So that's just his opinion. Fine, find out who they are, sell to them. And you're always focused, especially if you're a wholesaler, even if you're a rehabber, demand. Forget the investor when you're a rehabber. We're chasing demand. It's not about falling in love with a property. It's about buying what people want to buy from you. Are you buying this market? What are they buying? Where are they buying? What price? These are the basic questions. You have to be client focused. Next. The MLS. So I want to talk about this. This is the best place to sell. MLS is not the best place to buy. It's the best place to sell. How many people agree with that? Yeah. People dog the MLS. They dog the MLS because you can't get deals off the MLS. It is the single best place to sell. It syndicates with every major place. Every major website syndicates off the MLS. So if you put something on there to sell it, it'll basically sell itself. It's not the best place to buy. Now, when it comes to cash buyers, you can get them from the MLS. Get them from the MLS. Why? The MLS makes it easy. You can sort the sales in the last 90 days, sort from buyers, take out finance, you got your cash buyers, makes it easy. But what the MLS doesn't do is give you all the buyers. Property appraiser will give you all the buyers. You can filter out owner occupants, associations, banks, focus on non-owner occupied. And cash buyers, by the way, or investors, typically not buying their personal name. So you can actually, between the MLS and the property appraiser, if you just use those two, you can find out who's buying. It's not rocket science. You can go out tonight. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can find out exactly who's buying in this market today. Go ahead. Oh, me. Exactly. Well, Greg's buying. So, plug for Greg. Promoter to host there. Greg buying. So, big plug for Greg. Greg is buying. But the key is, though, if you want to stay relevant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, if you want to stay current, you don't have to spend a ton of money. If you want to know who to sell to, go to the MLS, go to the property appraiser. That's your list. You can hire a VA to skip trace their phone number, get their email. People make this really complicated. So what do you think the most important thing is? I'll take it. Show of hands. How many people think when it comes to buying properties at the right price for disposition? So how many people think disposition is the most important thing in your business? Okay, that's one. Okay. How many people think acquisition is the most important thing in your business? That's it. The money's made on the buy. Disposition with today's technology is so easy. People make it hard. They write courses on this stuff. Never bid to sell information. I mean, it probably sounds like a hypocrite, but in all seriousness, disposition is easier. You've got to focus on acquisition. So I want to open up to some questions. What's my time? Yeah, 3 minutes. Okay, cool. So we've got time for questions and answers. I wanted to leave plenty of time. So we'll start with you, David. Next then. Go ahead.
Who is the best fit for it?
So at IDI and Dell Point are who we use. Now, you may not qualify for an IDI or Dell Point account. There's a lot of qualifications for that. That's who we personally use.
That's an IDI right now.
Yeah, a lot of people use white labeled skip tracings. So a lot of people, when you see something like 13 cents a lead, 12 cents a lead, 10 cents a lead, they're all pulling from the same data, which is basically just repurposed by the time it gets to you. It's typically not the best. Now, I will tell you this. It's a good question. We actually use IDI, Dell Point, People Search, and White Pages. People Search and White Pages, we actually pay VAs to manually search numbers on those. So the bulk uploads come from IDI and Dell Point, and then we do another layer on top of that. So I actually put 4x the effort to finding one person than my competition. Because everybody else runs through lists, whatever spits out, they call, they throw the data. I do the 2 lists, then I manually search it. So typically we'll get 20, 30 numbers. Then we eliminate the duplicates, push everything left to right, then it goes in the daughter. So there's a big difference. You put more effort into the leads that you think are going to produce money instead of just using one software. But that's the difference between having a boutique operation that really believes in the leads you're going after versus throwing shit against the wall. Now there's an argument for both. You can call 50,000 people, it's a numbers game, or you can call 500 people. In fact, one of my most successful students, who you know, Chris Kelly, has made over a couple $1 million this year from a few hundred leads. Because he was a specialist. He eliminated all the stuff he didn't want, went all in on going after the people he did want. So you got to decide what business you're in. If you're in a business where you just smile and dial them, great. Dial tens of thousands of people. You play a numbers game. If you want to play a boutique business, you got to be really good at narrowing down who your seller is, and then make sure that you go after them. You got to go see them in person, fly out to see them, text them, call them, RVM, make sure you get the right number and get in contact with them, because it's a different business for sure. But IDI and Dell Point at a high level, People Search, and White Pages that we use for manual search. Good question. Daniel.
You said wholesale in any market. How do you wholesale and fit? You're wholesaling right now, you're locking up
Sure.
limited prices.
Great question. So let me use the stock market. If you're day trading on the stock market, do you care if the stock is going up or down, or if you buy below today, you sell today and get out? You don't. You just day trade, right? Same thing. It's a wholesaler. Your only goal of a wholesaler is, what is the asset trading for today? What price can I buy below that? And I sell today's price. You're out. You pass the risk on to the buyer. That's why it's an even better strategy in the downward market. Right now, we're kind of in an upward market, but it's a false high. But in downward market, we're trading down. See, buy lower, you sell lower. Buy lower, you sell lower. Buy lower, you sell lower. That's exactly what happened in the last market cycle, exactly what happened. As long as you're buying below today's market price, you're essentially insulated from the market, because you're not taking a market risk, because you're not owning the asset. You're day trading. You only care what it's worth today. I know. You got to think about that one. Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Yes.
How do you think the iBuyers and bill offers are going to impact local mom and pop guys, your investors?
I think that they're trying to cut out the middleman. So in general, they're trying to institutionalize the title fees, the mortgage fees, the realtor fees, So they're trying to roll all that stuff up and make it part of the transaction. So if you look at the iBuyer offer, you're 100, they're 100, but then you take off all their fees, they're down to 92. But the reality is they're trying to view stuff that adds no value to the transaction and beat it down to a very, very small fee. Where it's going to end up, I don't know. They've got a lot of money. They're still in the proof of concept phase. They're still raising capital. The reality is people have to make money. So if they can do that, control different parts of the transaction, and overall make a profit, they'll keep doing the deal. If they're not making a profit, they'll pull out of the market. So I believe in capitalism. I mean, if you're into sports, NBA, went a different route than some of the other sports with what they promote. Now they're changing strategy because it's business. So you'll find next season things will be a little bit different because ultimately people are business. So Zillow, iBuyers, doesn't matter. They'll try a business model for a certain period of time to prove concept, but you can't continue to prove concept for several quarters in a row and lose money. So when you read these reports about Zillow losing money, they're going to raise their buy price. That's what's going to happen. I guarantee it. That's what's going to happen. So maybe they're buying at 82%, they'll buy it 81%. If it works, they'll buy it 80%, 79%. But these guys are working with high-level data, billions of dollars, and have a different perspective. They're dealing with BIPs. They're 10 BIPs this way, 10 BIPs that way. They're trying to just tweak the model because they're looking at annualized returns. So literally, the way these guys look at it, you may not realize this. You may think they're stupid. We all think iBuyers are stupid, right? We sell them like, it's not retard paying this much money. But ultimately, in their mind, if they turn $100 million or $1 billion and they make 3%, 3 times a year, they brought back 9% to the street. Well, let's just say they make 5% did 3 times. They make 15%. They take out their fees, and the investor got 9%. They're winners. They're winners. So it's a different ballpark they're playing in. So a lot of times we want to be critical of people with lots of money that they're just dumb. But ultimately, someone pushing a button $1 billion is probably smarter than you or I in most cases. So sometimes it's the time to take a slice of humble pie. But it's just a different business model. They look at money a little bit different than you and I. They're looking at annualized returns. So iBuyers, I think, will have a place in this market. So at a high level, the retail buyer buys at $1. The investor buys at 70 cents on the dollar. So there's a place. There is a place for an iBuyer with a low cost of capital, somewhere between you and I, the retail buyer. I believe that. I just don't think it's at 92, 93 cents on the dollar. I think that they're going to take their beatings and probably back down somewhere in the 80s, and then you'll have the buyers like us, the retail buyers, probably someplace in the middle of the institutional buyer. Because it's not efficient. To have a 30% gap between investors and retail is not efficient. That's not an efficient market. The good news about capitalism, it closes any gaps that are not efficient. Yes, go ahead.
With the moratorium, the foreclosure moratorium until January.
Oh,
Are you seeing? Are you?
You hurt me with that one.
I know. How are you? Are you seeing buyers? I mean, are you seeing sellers motivated to sell that they know that they haven't made?
Yes.
They know that
Yes.
they're. How are you getting into the school?
So what we do in that case, we first of all understand what kind of occupant. So this is where you probably want to consult with an attorney. That's my disclosure because I'm not in public and recorded. But you want to know what kind of person is in the property. Because if it's a true tenant with a proper lease that's been affected by COVID, there's a lot of laws that protect that tenant, unfortunately. If you got an occupant that's playing the game and can't prove their case, there's less risk. What we found is a person who is identified that's got a person who wants to stay forever in their property, we're willing to get a massive discount on that. Or they're willing to take a massive discount. What do I mean by that? Your cost of capital for 6 months is $10,000. You get a $20,000 discount. In my mind, I'm going to do the deal. So for me, it's dollars and cents, but I'm padding that risk. So our normal business model is buying. If we take down an asset, we plan on selling in 3 months, so 90 days. If we plan on rehabbing in 6 months. Now with COVID, we've padded that 2 or 3 months. With an occupied property, our risk margin, how many months have we had? How many months have we factored in for occupants properties? Anybody?
Well,
6. We're operating at a big level because we're operating and some of the people are legitimate and some are not. We've literally padded our buy and hold properties with occupied properties as far as 6 months. So Every answer is different, but it is important to understand your state laws, the federal laws. People may not realize in this room, everybody cheered Governor DeSantis not continuing the moratorium, right? It's like big cheer, right? For most people, the CDC came along and just undercut that entire non-extension early in September. So you're dealing with different sets of laws at the state level, federal level, and here's what gets even crazier. At a county level, when the judge decides, at a sheriff's level, when they have to execute the writ, you've got all different people you got to answer to. So it's very, very important to understand exactly who is in your property. There's a huge difference. We'll say, I know a couple of people. If David is a bona fide tenant who was affected by COVID, and Alex is just trash sitting in my property, I'm just using you, yeah, you're a good friend of mine, and he's saying, I'm going to use COVID to my advantage. You're going to be protected. You write a letter saying COVID affected me, I lost my job, blah, blah, blah. I can't kick you out. Alex is playing the system. With my attorneys and my understanding of the law, I can kick Alex out. And that's the difference. Literally, the same set of laws, but understanding who's in your property. Alex just was squatting there. You actually had to leave. So I'm using the king of trailers as an example. I know. But there is a huge difference. You can literally have two occupants, same set of laws. It depends on who's in your property. There's a huge difference. I cannot stress this enough. So we're able to remove 70 to 80% of our occupants. The 20 to 30 that remain are bona fide tenants that have been quote unquote affected by COVID. That's my book answer. That's, you know, I'm recorded, so I have to give you guys the book answer.
Ask him at the bar.
Yeah. Good question though. Really, really good.
Dad wants to talk some shit about it.
Yes, of course.
Well, I was going to say kick Alex out anyway, but what about cash?
That's Alex's dad. By the way, why are we going to kick Alex out?
Yes. What about cash the keys? Is that a strategy you use?
That's a Pandora's box.
I love
so
it.
we've offered $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. We still can't get people out.
I do.
You do. You're also the king of trailers.
$2,500, they get out of my property.
So the king of trailers that finances properties at $4 a month is able to get people out. But in all seriousness, if you offer $5,000 to a $1,000 a month tenant, yes, they're doing the same equation we're talking about right now. This is why $2,000 to somebody who reasonably believes the CDC is going to protect them through January. How attractive is foregoing 4 months of rent for $2,000? So do you want to take a $5,000 free ride or collect $2,000? Who here wants to do that?
Just threaten them.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Anyway, sorry. I'll ignore you for this minute. If you offer $3,000, who here is doing the deal? Imagine you're in the property. I'm offering you $3,000. Reasonably, you get 4 or 5 months. You doing the deal? No. All right, $10,000. You think you're paying 3 or 4 months. You're getting $3,000 to $4,000 value. Who's doing the deal for $10,000? See, there's a price for everything. This is where it's important to understand when you're buying a property, negotiate with a seller. You got to factor this in. Think like an occupant. At some point, it's going to tip the scale. But it's not $500 or $1,000. Anybody here who's kicked people out for $500 or $1,000? It ain't happening right now. That's the reality. But the good news is, if you put your business head on, just the cost of doing business.
Well, the other problem we're going to have is there's going to be a huge backlog at the courts come January, and that's going to be another problem, isn't it?
I agree with you. What I'm saying, with bona fide tenants, yes, you are correct. So what we've taken the position, if you lock and load it, get it into the court system, that you're going to be ahead of the people that haven't filed yet. You want to consult with your attorney on that strategy. But yes, I'm with you. If I have a bona fide tenant, in fact, it may shock you guys in this room. I've got $25,000 in Chicago on $1 million property. I can't get someone out. Cash for keys. They're basically giving me the middle finger and laughing at me while it's starting to snow and due to like winter season. And I feel like they're on that free ride till March or April. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. It's shocking what's going on right now. But ultimately, it's money. It's about dollars and cents. So the best way you can insulate yourself, going back to your question, just negotiate your buy price. Make sure you build in plenty of margin of error, and make sure you purposely build a margin of error where you're willing to stroke the check. So if you have an Alex in your property, you can pay him enough money to get out. No, I'm using you because you can take it right away. But that's the way you need to be thinking. There's a huge risk in having someone in your property is not paying because the law is not on your side right now. I mean, without getting political, depending on who's voted in less than 30 days, imagine a scenario where there's amnesty for 2021 with occupied properties. That could change the entire landscape of real estate as we know it. It's important to consider that risk, not just take it for granted. Up until March, I took a lot of things for granted in real estate. Now I'm like, okay, I've got to really look at today's market and what's actually happening, the political landscape, what's happening with the real estate laws, and make sure my strategy is tailored around that, not just ride on what worked yesterday. But yeah, occupied properties, that's a hot topic. It's a really, really hot topic, for sure. Anybody else? Yes.
You mentioned consumer confidence earlier.
Yes.
And data also suggests going forward, the younger generation is going to become renter market. Being that, this is probably clearing off in the market sector, how do you plan on playing, knowing that's good data going forward? Less retail buyers probably.
Sure. Yeah, for me, the buying low, selling high exceeds any of those statistical charts. I've seen in cyclical markets like Florida, California, Arizona, Nevada, there's so much data to suggest that markets go up, markets go down. Rather than presuppose on whether millennials are going to buy or rent, I'd rather sell high and buy low. And so I've cashed out of most of my rentals. I plan on buying where the opportunity is. And when you're liquid, you can buy wherever the opportunity is. Is it B class? Is it C class? Is it D class? D class is not that interesting because there's a lot of problems in war zones. So what we're targeting the next cycle is right below where the institutions are buying. Typically, you'll find your institutional buyers want A or B. They want clean stuff, pretty stuff for their investors. There's plenty of money to be made in working class neighborhoods. When you look at stuff in Ybor, let's just take Ybor, a local market here. I've seen stuff in not great neighborhoods, brand new construction sell for $275. Next to it, there's a 1900 house that I wouldn't pay 30 grand for. I'm looking at stuff and scratching my head, thinking, man, there's massive opportunity there. That's exactly what I saw last cycle. What's interesting is you run the automated model for an institution, they're not going to buy there. That creates an opportunity for you and I, because we recognize you got a house that was built the last 2 years, needs no repairs and maintenance or very little, and it's valued at the same place as the neighborhood. But from a rental perspective, think about this. In 2008, I was regularly buying stuff with a 30 to 50 rent multiplier. Anybody know what a rent multiplier is? Okay, so you take the rent, you multiply it, and that's the total price. So I was buying stuff 30 to 50. Real life example, buying stuff for 30 grand, renting for 1,000. That's a 30 rent multiplier. Stuff, take it today, you're buying 150 for $1,200. It's about 125, 150. It's just crazy. Especially as you go up the ladder, the rent multiplier is just insane. And so I look at the market a whole different way, but it's based on my experience. So for people that don't have that experience, I can understand why you're not seeing it that way. You're saying, well, I'll get 20 grand in equity today. Equity can wipe out immediately, immediately. Equity is really just a paper number, but if you take cash flow, you take, debt coverage service ratio, these are things that, especially the higher debt coverage service ratio, if you got a 2 or 3x, it doesn't matter if people don't pay on a scale basis. But if you're operating at 1.15 or 1.2 just to meet the lender's requirements, a lot of people are sucking out 80% of value. That sounds cool, right? On Facebook or Instagram, it sounds cool. The reality is there's no equity left. You've sucked out every last dollar. Stuff doesn't sell at appraised value. That's what it does for a loan. It sells at market value, especially if you're dealing with a cash flowing property. There's no retail value. Every investor who buys a cash flowing property wants to buy at an investment price. So it's a dangerous game. Just because the banks will lend you doesn't mean you should borrow. And so I'm really trying to look at this thing from a, if everything goes wrong, can I still pay my debt? Do I still have equity? The market cycles, it's so dangerous to ignore market cycles. It really is, especially in a market like Florida. You can point to Iowa, you can point to other markets a little bit slower, but man, if you look at a national scale, the markets, it's peak. Now it's peak plus. We're in peak plus territory. Fed's dropped the rates, it's peak plus. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. That's where the market's at. So do you want to buy and hold at today's prices, or do you want to trade assets, stack cash, buy when prices come down? I think there's a lot of data that suggests you buy when stuff comes down.
Yeah. What's your opinion of the commercial market?
So you've got a lot of people suggest, man, it's an office building appraised at 20. So I'll ask you another question. I'll put it right back to you. $5 million office building that appraised last year for $5 million. Now it is 20% occupancy. What's it worth?
That's a million.
How long is a piece of string? That's the problem with commercial. Yesterday's value has gone out the window because if it's functionally obsolete and you scrape the building, it's worth lot value. This is where commercial is really just a whole other discussion we probably can't get into tonight. But commercial is only worth the cap rate. By the time you factor in the cap rate, the potential appreciation, but really it's down to cap rate. And if you got a 20% occupancy, it's 20% occupied for a reason. How low does rent need to go? Can you ever get it occupied, or can you never get it occupied, or is it the wrong use? I mean, what's a mall worth? What's a mall where nobody's paying worth?
Yeah.
Right, but that's what I mean. I mean, I'm not being funny. I mean, like, I'm asking a serious question we should think about. I don't know what a mall where no tenant is paying is worth. I really don't. I'd be lying to you guys if I did. I would probably start with lot value as my base, but even what's the lot value worth if nobody wants to develop? This is where, like, you're chasing a rabbit down a hole, because commercial, to me, is definitely a watch and wait. I have zero interest in buying any commercial property, because I go back to my previous statement. It's not important to call the top, it's important to call the bottom. Let the shit hit the fan. Let's see where commercial's going to land. Let everything just get wiped out and see what actually is happening. You take places like New York, they don't have enough affordable housing, so that's down here. You got empty office buildings. Maybe they're turning office buildings into affordable housing, where it's not even commercial anymore. I mean, I feel like everything's up for grabs right now. You've got big buildings that are just being completely gutted and turned into warehouses for Amazon. So it's an office building yesterday, it's a warehouse today. So what's it worth? It's worth whatever the rental is in a warehouse minus a demo turning it into a warehouse. It's a very, very, I think misleading. It's not misleading, but it's a very deeper answer on commercial, what commercial is worth, because that landscape is changing. People working from home, bricks and mortars going virtual. What's an AMC theater worth? I mean, they're renting. You can rent an entire theater for $900. How many guests? Yeah, $99. You get the whole theater to yourself. 20 guests.
Next meeting's at AMC.
Maybe that's something you can consider. That's the right side of the trade. But in all seriousness, what's that worth? If you look at price per square foot, I mean, it's all gone out the window. They're just, I mean, it's a shit show. I mean, commercial to me is just very, very dangerous right now. Yes.
If you're selling off rentals, what are you doing with the tax liability?
What am I doing? That's a good question. You can buy other people's depreciation. Is one thing we do.
What do you mean?
You can buy someone else's depreciation who doesn't have to pay tax. You can actually step into their depreciation. That's one way to eliminate tax. Yeah, 1031 exchange. There's lots.
If you're waiting for the market to correct, the 1031 exchange is only 45 days.
Depends. You're smart. Depends. You can work strategically with partners that you know, buy stuff right, still get that tax exchange value. Essentially what you're doing is exchanging tax credits. If you're working closely with people that you know and trust, that's a whole other level of discussion. But my goal is to pay $750.
Hey.
Just random number. I love everybody. I respect everybody's right to vote. Anyway,
That's all I have.
yeah, no problem. I do though. For people who follow me, I'm not politically divisive, not racially divisive. Like, you can vote for whoever you want. It was just a joke. So, anyway.
said you have to make that disclaimer.
No, it is though. I want that team every day. I don't want to be divisive. That's just not how I roll. So I came to this country. I like living here because you can do whatever you want. I may have a completely different opinion than you or anybody, and I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
Where'd you come from?
Ireland.
Ireland.
Oh,
Yeah, I got my citizenship actually 5 years ago. Yeah, I think there's so many good things about this country, and I try to just remember the reason why I came here and stayed here. I don't want to feed into that narrative. Any kind of narrative that's going on in 2020, you'll see me distance myself a million miles. Nothing to do with it. It's not how I roll. So, anybody else? Yes.
So for the marketing piece, you had mentioned earlier that kind of honing in on quality leads.
Yes.
Which I think is great. But I feel like in the realtor world and the selling world and really the real estate, there hasn't really been a strategy. Like people kind of just go their own route. They look at the trends. They're looking at MLS. They're fucking around. But
Yeah.
like in terms of what good strategies, what do you use? What do you think are good?
Sure.
Like traditional strategies and digital strategies, are you using any of that?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you are, but yeah. So I was just curious, like how do you hone down that list, and then how do you market to that list?
So at a base level, a realtor doesn't care if properties are going up or down or equity. Why? They want to execute a trade. So if you're a realtor in this room, your only job is to sit in the middle and have a buyer and a seller. You guys understand that, right? You're a broker. You're brokering transactions, which means no equity, it's a short sale. Equity, traditional sale. So what I would say to you is a lot of realtors overthink this. They don't realize their job in the marketplace. Your job in the marketplace is to sit in between a buyer and a seller. That's what your job is. A lot of people try to overthink this, try to step in as an investor, or try to educate their seller. Guess what? If you want to buy the property for $300,000, just say yes. My job is to sell you that property. My job is to, well, I think in 2 years it'll be worth $240,000 based on this. No, I'm here to execute a trade. If he wants to sell it, you want to buy it, I'm here to execute that trade. That's what a professional broker, really, I'm a licensed broker, by the way. My job is to facilitate that trade. And so a lot of people will try to overstep their boundaries. Now, for you, your question is who should you be targeting? If you're trying to target a traditional sale, people with equity are likely to sell. The most people likely to sell, people have a reason to sell. Code enforcement issues, foreclosure, tax deed, death, divorce, people, all the normal reasons. Now you have to turn, I think what you're pointing to is a basic fundamental difference between pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, you could be a fisher person, some political person. How do you call a fisherman? Is it a fisher person? Fisher people, I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, you're a person that fishes. So that was okay. That was a viable business strategy. Now we have to be hunters, which means the deal's not going to come to you. The buyer's not going to come to you. They will actually right now, specifically since July. But I can tell you, like April, May, June, no one was coming to anybody. There's no buyers coming to any seller. It was terrible. So we have to view ourselves as hunters, which means whatever you want to go get, you got to go get it. So you've got to decide who you're going after. What is your business model? If you want traditional sales, the question is, who's most likely to sell? Who's a traditional seller? If you want short sales, or if you take the opinion, I just want to know people that need to sell. That doesn't matter. Then you ignore equity. Because guess what? Equity, great. Greg will list it. If it's no equity, short sell person over here. So now you just get the leads. You sell them where they need to go. Because you're focused on people that need to sell, not the people that can sell. You've got to figure out what business you're in. If I'm a cash buyer, is there any point in going after short sales? No, because I'm a cash buyer. I need to buy people with equity. But in our case, we'll target anybody. So we just target people who need to sell.
So how are you targeting them?
How we're targeting? So what we do is we figure out people who have equity and figure out people in foreclosure, people with tax deed, people divorced, people who have died. So we go after the state level. So like you won't catch me because I'm at state level. So I'm not competing directly against anybody here. We're in Miami, we're in the Panhandle, we're in Jacksonville, we're everywhere. Anyone who has equity who needs to sell in the entire state of Florida, I'm going after. That's my list.
Them? Are you sending them an email? Are you
That's a great
targeting
question.
them?
So we call them, we text them, and we follow up. And we do it relentlessly. That's what we do. Follow is the key. It's not just one call. It's not just one text. It's not just one RVM where legally appropriate. You want to check with your attorney. You're saying people bring his voicemail. I'm not recommending that from the stage. You should check with your attorney, and you should make sure that whatever strategy you're doing in marketing cold leads is appropriate. Yes.
What would you advise for any new listening? It seems to me a lot of the meat and potatoes were for those who are investing and that are beyond a certain point. But for those who are in the room that are realtors, new realtors, new agents, what would you suggest we focus on to get this? What kind of client?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I go back to my original statement. If you're a realtor, your job is to facilitate a transaction. The only thing you need is a buyer and a seller. So you either go after buyers or go after sellers. I would argue, as being a licensed broker, the easiest person to go after is the seller. Because you get to control the listing and sit on the beach while Alex, the king of trailers, wherever he is out there showing your house all weekend. Because Alex doesn't care about his time. So 9 o'clock at night, he's taking buyers' calls. So if you want to actually talk about a very base level in real estate, buyers agents run around chasing after buyers. Listing agents sit on the beach, they're drinking mimosas. I mean, that's the difference.
So how do you sell yourself as a new agent to a seller?
Well, what you got to do is target people. I would say as a new agent, people need to sell.
Like this price?
People need to sell. You need to be consistent. That's a great question. You want to be consistent in everything you do. So if you're posting pictures of you getting trashed every weekend or the weekend and you want to try to get listed, you're probably not going to get that. But if you're constantly telling people, I'm in real estate, this is what I do, I specialize in this, you've got to market. Now the element of marketing kicks in. So if you want to specialize as a listing agent, you got to position yourself in the market as a listing agent. You got to understand your customer. So for me, I understand my customer. My customer is my kind of seller. My kind of seller is someone who's desperate to sell and knows they have to sell and can sell, which means they have equity. So we've got really good at identifying our customer. So for you, you need to identify a seller that can sell, needs to sell. That's your customer. And once you identify a customer, you need to brand yourself appropriately. So that's not a 5-minute answer. It's about being consistent on social media, all of your marketing. Everything needs to point back to a consistent message. So if it's you competing against the person next to you, and they're consistent, you're not, no one wants to bet on a question mark. They want to go with someone who thinks can solve their problem. And whether you're a realtor or investor, our job is not doing a transaction. You can deal with anybody. It's just a binary transaction. 1 + 1 = 2. It's very hard to compete. But if you can create a unique marketing proposition about what you do, a unique selling proposition, that's how you separate yourself. You got to identify what your unique ability is, what your unique selling proposition, go all in on that. That's how you separate yourself from the crowd. You don't try to compete with everybody else. You're competing with yourself.
How do you identify that though as a brand?
I think that's good. I think having a solid circle around you to give you feedback, what you're good at, what you're not, your personality test. I mean, it's a moment of honesty. There's a lot of people in this world. The people that succeed are people that do things that they're really good at and they enjoy. That's people that really excel. And I can tell you, stand up here, I'm not good at everything, but I've gotten good the last several years on identifying what I'm good at, what I'm terrible at. I sub out what I'm terrible at and hire amazing people around me. I go all in on things I am good at. That's the best advice I can give you. But don't try to be good at everything. If you try to be a jack of all trades, or Jill, we're 2020 right now. Whatever Jill, maybe it's I don't know. Maybe Jill used to be a jack. Transitions, I don't know. But anyway, my point is, if you try to do everything well, you're going to do everything poorly. If you go all in on a strategy that you've identified you're good at, you're more likely to succeed and separate yourself from the crowd by specializing. Specialists make money. People that try to do everything poorly are getting washed up right now.
So if your brand's making new and you don't have like a niche yet or closings to say what you're good at, or it just took you out the mud and really slapped your butt.
Join a team that can provide you leads.
I got to see Emily. Come on, talk to me.
Join a team that can provides you leads. Why? Because you don't have to do the marketing. You get to then jump in and start to, to work the leads, because marketing is a whole other element versus selling. So you've got to, I would say that it's tough. As a brand new realtor, if you're trying to do marketing and selling and closing leads, that's tough. And you got to put on your training wheels at the very, very beginning. Joining a team that can give you leads is going to give you, it's going to cut out one part of the equation. For sure. All right, how's the time doing?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes, so we'll do 3 more questions. You, and who's the last one? You at the back. I will do 4. You. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead.
I just want to know, what was your first deal and how would you do it differently today? Like, or your first gig in real estate, what was the first thing you did?
Sure.
And if you could do it differently today, how would you do it?
My first deal, I wouldn't have done differently. Actually, I would have tried to buy it quicker. So I was in California at the time, and I had a mentor who told me where to buy, what price point to buy. And at night, I drove after hours, after my classes, looked at the houses. It took me about 3 months to actually purchase that first deal. So I think the speed of execution would have been different. If I had known what I know today, I would have executed quicker. But I was kind of just part-time in because I didn't quite believe it. I kind of thought I might get success, but if I'd actually known I was going to turn 30 grand a clip, I would have been like in my car probably like at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I think that that's a big difference in implementation. So the deal was great, checked all the boxes. It was exactly what my mentor told me to buy. It was at the right price, the right amount of repairs, sold at the right price. But I think for me, what I would have done differently today is speed of execution. The thing that's going to separate people in this room, people implement people versus them. People that sit around and talk about it or send the read and go, oh, that was great. Maybe he's a trip. Whatever you want to say about me, fine. But the people that implement versus people who don't, that's the people that excel. So I think that my first deal was solid. I wish I'd implemented 3 months previous, because it took me almost 3 months to get it. And I think if I put down the hammer and really tried to go after that deal, I probably could have got the same deal done in a couple of weeks. Who's next? Yes.
What's your strategy from transitioning from the investor to the real estate agent on the call? So you make the call, the investor, the principal, and then saying, okay, it's not going to work. So you're wanting to then be the listing agent.
Sure. So I think you've got to have a defined workflow. This is where you got to sit down. It's just you sit down with yourself, or keep a team, you sit down, you got to whiteboard this stuff. So I call it the life of the lead. And what you need to do is identify workflows, almost like anyone who's played, what do you call it? What's the game? Pinball. That's exactly how it is with leads. So you push the lead this way, you push it this way. So lead with equity goes this way. Lead with no equity goes this way. You need to mind map your business just like that and have a defined strategy. So you know exactly wherever that call is going, exactly where you're going to send the lead. That's it. And that's only something you can do, but you should sit down the weekend, just mind map it out. But once you have a plan for little equity is the listing. No equity, short sale. A lot of equity, cash. That's it. I mean, without overcomplicating it, that's the pinball machine. That's really it. And if you can set up your organization where you can monetize no equity, small equity, or a lot of equity, now you can monetize every lead. The key is just to get a lead. That's it. That puts you in a whole different category. But you also, the way you close those leads is going to be different, which is all part of what you have to mind about. And you can make money off of it. As long as you have someone who's willing to sell your house, equity is irrelevant. Because no equity is a short sell, because they don't just gave up on life. Great. You broker the transaction, still make money, regardless of equity. Little equity, listing, you can get rid of this problem, get off your plate. A lot of equity, there's a cash arbitrage there where you can make money. But I think that really mapping out your business is key in that case. I'll come back to you. We'll do it number 5 just for time. My bad. All right, we have 2 more. One's back, and one here. You last.
So how did you take the leap from being citywide investor to like now statewide investor?
Because I worked on systems and processes, so which means if I have to drive the property, or I can identify a system for taking pictures and video of the property, then it doesn't matter where I'm at. That was a big difference. I think thinking virtually was huge. So it doesn't matter whether it's an hour away, 3 hours away, or 10 hours away. It's the same game. So systems and processes is the foundation for going virtual. Yes.
Okay, so I have read articles that people are the best place to invest.
What is?
I have read articles that said Florida is like the best place to invest within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
What advice do you give of what strategy should we start doing to help us move?
Well, you're never gonna beat the market. The market's like tidal wave. You're just like a little tadpole in that pond against the ocean. So you want to go with the market. So I would say right now, take advantage of the velocity of the market. There's lots of people, demand is high. So locking up deals and selling in quickly, that's where the key is. The key is feeding the demand of the low supply. There's low supply, feeding that with supply is going to be where you make money. But investing, that's a loaded question. Do I want to buy at the peak of the market when I feel like it's musical chairs? No, I don't. I just want to keep day trading real estate. So I would recommend, especially if you don't have a huge asset base behind you, lots of equity, day trading real estate. Take money out of the market instead of dumping back into a market. At the bottom of the market, everybody's investor. At the top of the market, you're a speculator. I don't want you guys to be speculating. My short answer. Last question.
What do you think about the Section 8 going back to the New York scenario about Section 8? You know,
I love Section 8. Just like every other tenant class, there's good Section 8 is bad. Our high point, we had almost 100,000 a month coming in Section 8 tenants with lots of rentals. I screen my Section 8 tenants just like every other tenant. And once you do that, you get good tenants. If people make generalized statements that they're good or bad, that's a false narrative. I got amazing Section 8 tenants because we use the same screening criteria. We rehab their houses well. We got the best Section 8 tenants, and whether they're Section 8 or private, we got the best tenants because our screening criteria is. I think the biggest mistake I made early on was saying to Section 8 that lowering deposits and lowering my criteria, then I end up getting a lesser tenant. By having the same criteria, the best Section 8 tenants will seek out the best properties. So if you want the best tenants, get the best properties. You don't have to be like granite and like all stainless, but you got a nice property. You're not going to get the best tenant with a shitty property. So that's been my advice, and we got fantastic Section 8. I love the Section 8 program. I loved waking up in the second or third of the month and having just tens of thousands of dollars in my account without chasing rent. So I'm a huge fan. But just like everything else, you've got to put some thought into it, not make these generalized statements. So anyway, thank you guys. I know we're going over time, so thank you.
All right, so things are obviously been a little bit different. Thank you, Lee, for coming out, giving up your time for this tonight. You know, I think, are we doing the bar thing? I don't know, because we're in the FundREIA. They have the bar open for us. They do. They do. Fantastic. So if you guys want to stay, have a drink. It's on route tonight. But guys, what I want to tell you about the bar, it's not just about having a drink. If that's your thing, great. It's not, it's fine too. The thing is, that's where the deals get done. Yep. That's where the relationships get built. That's where the money is at. So if you're planning on going home because you're all excited about what we just talked to you tonight, and you're like, I'm going to go raise a bunch of money, but you didn't stay at the bar, you just lost out on the opportunity to go find that money. So I highly encourage you to stay, shake hand, or well, fist bump, elbow bump, whatever it is you want to do, and go meet some people tonight. Thank you guys for coming out to TBREIA tonight. I greatly appreciate you being here tonight. We'll see you guys next month. I did have time to do I know, it's terrible.
Before you walk away, I'll follow you to see.
Yeah.
Field mortgage.
How would you reason this? You guys are narrowing in on our.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah.
Where is she? Let me see her.
Yeah, that's where I started. I started like oh my God. Very sick. Yes.
Feel like a little.
I got
I try to be original and
Did you get that in the back?
I'm gonna go talk to somebody.
So you have to remember everybody.